Proudly brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mackay Cutters Change the Game podcast, episode 3. This week we're talking about our Cutters community program, so Cutters Care. We've got Mason Thorpe with us today. He's a HDC and ISC player, so welcome Mason.
Thank you, great to be here.
And Tim Rogers, so Tim, our performance coach here at the Cutters. He's the one that leads these programs, so we're going to get some great insight from Tim today. So welcome, Tim.
Hey, everyone.
Acknowledgement of the country. We'd like to acknowledge the Yui people of the Kulin Nation, pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And yeah, let's get started. So we're going to touch on why we do this program in our community, in our region, and then also go on about how it connects to the Cutters, why it's important, and get some good stories from Tim from a lot of the sessions you've done. So, firstly, what is the program, number one, and we'll go straight to you, Tim, and then how does it link to the Cutters, and give us a little bit of background on the story of the Cutters Care.
Yeah, sure. The program actually started before I got here, so I've inherited it and taken it over. But it's a program that we present at schools in the Mackay area, generally aimed at sort of like the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. It relates mostly to physical activity, wellness. A lot of evidence out there that health problems that occur as we're adults start when we're young, just through inactivity, through poor diet, poor sleep habits. And the program is designed to help children start to understand and implement that in a way that's suited for kids. It's different to the way an adult might start to exercise and start to take care of their health. We're trying to make it habitual, so it's something that becomes lifelong. There's a lot of evidence that if you don't start at a young age, and we're talking about populations of all research with 2 and 3 million people in the sample, that if you don't start at a young age, it's harder to start at an older age. So we're trying to jump in at an earliest logical point, and also make it fun, also make it something that the kids can enjoy. So we do a 45-minute presentation, we play some games, give out some prizes, and really just have a good time with the kids. And that's been going, I think we've done about, since I've been here, probably about 20 schools, 22 schools, something like that. So it's slowly growing, and it's definitely a highlight of the week. It's something that we have a lot of fun doing.
Yeah, great. So the 3 main pillars for it are nutrition, hydration and sleep.
Yeah, that's the recovery part.
Yep.
So we try to give it a little bit of a tie-in that, we're the Cutters, we're a rugby league team. We want to make sure that it's got some relevance to who we are as well. Mm-hmm. So we talk about physical activity, we talk about diet, we talk about recovery. And we also talk about passion and doing things that you're having fun. So we talk to the kids, for example, about hobbies and the things that they enjoy doing, and then we'll talk about how those hobbies are now Olympic sports. So if you look at something like skateboarding, a lot of kids like to ride skateboards, they like to surf. Not so much up here, but they snowboard. Those things are all Olympic sports now. So we try and talk about how your passions, if there's something that is physically active and you enjoy doing them, you're definitely ticking the box quite well there. So we try and package it in a way that's quite fun as well.
And we've had players involved throughout the schools that you've been to, especially this year. And we've had some of our girls, women's program players, younger players, and also ISC players like Mason go out. How have you got them involved? Or Mace, how you could probably touch on what's been your part in the program when you go to the school, and how do you engage with the kids?
Basically, Timmy's really, really great with the kids, and he sort of throws us questions and stuff to us throughout the program, and ties us into all these jokes, and basically tells them that we're going to be an NRL player one day. So that drives the kids crazy, and they love us, even though the percentage of that happening is pretty low. But yeah, we just basically help out wherever we can, give out prizes for people that put their hand up and answer questions, and yeah, just basically interact as much as we can with the kids.
Yeah. Have you got a good intro, Timmy? What's your go-to? Do you change it up, or have you got a regular?
The first question I always ask the kids, and a lot of it is about engaging the kids. If it's just some guy standing up there referring to huge bits of cardboard, which we've got a few that we'll show in a sec, they're not really going to buy in. We want it to be an event, something that's different, that they didn't expect to happen at school that day. So my first question is generally who plays sport. And as much as possible, we'll answer if every kid puts his hand up, we'll go around to every kid and we'll ask them what sports they play. Mm-hmm. We definitely don't gear it towards rugby league, even though that's our sport, because we're talking about activity here. It's not a recruitment drive. It's about a change of lifestyle and giving kids the understanding and the skills that's going to make them healthy adults. And we talk about hobbies, and we start talking about things that we can control, things that we can't control, and our health to an extent. The evidence is out there that we have a fair amount of control of our health. We want to start at a young age and it become habitual, and it rolls from there. We try not to make it too prescriptive. We want to give the kids nice, broad information that's easier for them to do. So, for example, when we talk about diet, it's not here's a good diet, here's a bad diet. We talk about simple things like eating different colours and what the food groups are, and eating natural foods, making sure that you don't have junk food every day, but it's okay as a sometimes thing. So we try and make it palatable, for want of a better word, for the kids, and something that they can apply pretty easy. They don't have to have a degree in health and nutrition and stuff like that. They're 9, 10, 11-year-olds, and we want to give them ideas that they're excited about as well. We also try and present it in a way that's fun, that the kids are going to go home and brag about and say, Mum, this guy came in and the Cutters players came in and it was so funny and it was so cool and I learned so much, and that's what we're targeting.
Yeah, great. And you've done some travel with the program too, so we've gone to some different regions within the district, which is great. It's not just centred here in Mackay. So probably tell us a little bit about a place you've visited that's been a longer drive, and the kids there, and or the size difference of the classes as well.
Yeah, we made sure we don't just stick to schools within the Greater Mackay district. So we've gone out to a lot of smaller schools, single teacher schools, 2 teacher, 3 teacher schools. We've actually targeted that a little bit early on, just to try and get out there because they don't get as many visits. So schools like, say, out at North Eaton, for example, that's where we kicked the year off, where we had the whole school. So we had kids from, I think, 5 all the way up to 12. And they're a lot of fun, the little schools. Much better research than what's the word I'm looking here for? Resourced than when I was a kid. And they've been great fun going out to those little schools. We've also done that at some of the bigger schools in town. So it's a mixture, basically. If a school's interested in having us, we'll make sure that we can get out there. The good thing with it being a school is we can do it during the day, so it doesn't clash with training, and it's possible for players to get out there and enjoy it as well. Ultimately, we want this to be a program that's ongoing. So in however long I'm here for, we want it to be going a long time after that. That's one of the reasons that we're getting players involved, and hopefully they get comfortable being able to present it as well in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mace, when you have been out there and got involved, what are some of the questions Timmy's asked you, and is it related to your preparation for performance or recovery?
Yeah, so just ask us basically general questions about how we prepare our bodies for games and trainings, and just to, I guess, give the kids a bit of an insight into what we have to do and what we go through. Personally, I tried to break it down to pretty as simple as possible for the kids to understand. I think Timmy's really good at that, making it as simple as he can for the kids to understand it.
Yeah. What's an example for you?
For my preparation?
Yeah.
I'd literally just try and drink as much water as I can the day before. I don't really like to drink heaps of water on the actual day. I find it makes me feel heavy. Mm-hmm. But like the day before and the night before, really try and get the water into me after training, and then just relax on the day, stay calm. That's about it, really. Pretty basic.
What about, Tim, if we talk back to what you mentioned before, where we wanted to be habitual and start at a young age and have it in people's habits as they grow up, staying active and healthy. What's an example that you do use with your cardboard cutouts and your travels and experiences?
Yeah, so when we do the presentation, we have large, I think the technical term is a core flute. So we don't do this on PowerPoint or something like that. So we can basically set up anywhere in the school. We've done as many of these outdoors as we've done them inside. So, for example, we talk a lot about recovery, which we essentially break down to diet and hydration, relaxation, and sleep. So we use a good example for the sleep one, which I'll get Mace to hold up. So February last year, and I tell the kids this story, I had to go to India to teach a course, and it took me 38 hours to get there. And this was me when I got to the hotel. So 38 hours to get there, had to fly via Singapore, flight got delayed, had a 9-hour stopover in Singapore, and I didn't look particularly healthy by the time I get there. So I use the example to the kids here of how bad I looked, for want of a better way to put it. My eyes are escaping my head, I'm frowning. I've got all these wrinkles all of a sudden all over my face. When I arrived there, I had literally a minute to turn the computer on and start the course. And I found out that no one in the course had English as a first language. And very different learning style, sorry guys, than we do in Australia. So that was me when I didn't get any sleep. And that was me when I got some sleep. And I point out just how much my head changed. Like, I'm smiling for starters, but all the wrinkles are gone. My eyes look like they're where they belong. There's a little twinkle in them. Complete change. So we go through that with the kids as an example of now how important sleep is. Just by missing one sleep, how much it can affect your appearance and your health. Obviously, being visual, and a lot of kids are visual learners these days. That's something that they pick up on pretty quick. I normally tell them that I don't know who the guy in the picture is, which always gets a bit of a laugh, and the kids will be like, no, that's you. And I'm like, oh, are you sure? It doesn't look like me. So that's just an example of how we try and get the information across.
Yep, so the kids respond well to that one.
Yeah. Sorry, hang on.
So then the next one, Mace, we hold a cute little fluffy...
So we talk about play.
Yep.
And trying to get the idea across that being physically active doesn't mean you have to play sport. So I used to live in Malaysia, and I went and visited the National Zoo, and they had a baby panda there at the time, and I was taking photos over and over again of this baby panda. So at the time it had fit on the table; it was about that high. Just to give them examples of how animals will play much more naturally than we do. They'll physically move their bodies. They'll manipulate things. They're very inquisitive, and how that helps them to prepare for what they're going to do as animals. So this is Nan, who's now back in China. Nan would be about 200 kilos and about 6 foot tall now. So we're just using the example with cute pictures of the importance of just natural play and moving your bodies, and how that can help with your health as well.
Yep, that's great. So what's the follow-on from the kids from that? So do they then recognise what they do in school now and sport and just natural play compared to sitting down playing video games? And
yeah, hopefully that's the message that we're getting across to them. We're currently looking at a follow-up program, which is an actual exercise program, which is going to use a lot of rugby league terminology, even though it's got nothing to do with rugby league. So we're looking at what we're calling our movement set of 6. And that'll be a program where the kids will break up for like just 3 minutes of different movement exercises that are foundation movements for sport as well. There's a lot of evidence, particularly in Australia and coming out of the UK, that things like standardised testing improves when kids' physical activity increases. So one school, for example, they dedicated a third of their day to physical activity. So you'd think a third of the day that they're not studying and doing lessons, their marks actually went up quite significantly as well. So this is a program that we're going to work towards over the course of the year. Obviously, being an exercise program, we have to make sure it ticks a lot of boxes and it's safe. But we want to have a follow-up, so we're not just going back to the school and doing the same presentation, that we can build on them. So it's a bit of a watch this space idea.
very good. Mace, when you're at school in Mackay, Do you remember any programs similar to this, or did have anyone come in externally, or was it more just the sport teachers doing it?
Probably the closest thing I sort of remember to anything like this was probably your sort of after school sort of activities that the NRL used to run, and they might do like a theory sort of part of it before they do. You go out in the oval and kick the footies around and pass the footies. That's probably the closest thing that I can remember to anything like Timmy's doing at the moment.
So back then, and being a budding NRL player, so did you at a younger age, really focus heavily on your nutrition, sleep and hydration as an example for, getting the best out of yourself, or when did sort of things start clicking in for you?
Yeah, so I'm a family of four boys, so Mum has always cooked a lot of food. There's always been a lot of food around, so we've always just been told to eat everything on our plate, which isn't always the best thing, but that's basically how I was brought up with food, and more is better, basically. But probably when I was around 13, 14, when I really started taking footy quite serious and started making a couple rep teams and things like that, that's when I realised that, and probably around the time that the NRL guys started coming to schools and things like that, that I started taking it pretty serious and realised that it actually did make a big difference. Then I'd say open schoolboys was the time that I really realised that recovery and things like that, I was getting so sore after games and trainings, and I remember one pre-season I had the worst shin splints. I still get them now, but I had the worst shin splints I'd ever had. I could barely run, and just something like that just rattled me, and I was like, I'm still a kid, I'm getting things like this happening to me. But that's when I realised that recovery and like all your prehab and rehab, things like that, is so important if you want to play at the top level, or any level really, consistently.
So if any teachers out there watching this or schools want to get involved, you head to our website, so www.mackaycutters.com.au, and go through the links there. There's a community section there, and then you'll be able to fill out the form for the Cutters Care program. So we'd love to see a lot more schools involved, so please sign up and get Tim out to your school. Tim, let's touch a little bit more on your background and journey to Mackay. So you maybe start us off from the start. And
I don't know if you want it from the start, because it's a 30-year journey. So
take us on a fast-forward journey.
Yes, I've been a strength and conditioning coach. Is the title that I started with. The title's evolved, but the job hasn't as much. So I did a university degree back when not many of them existed. So this is back in the 1990 I started. So it's possible to get an education without the internet. Worked as a strength and conditioning coach. Initially I worked just in gyms, and then I got a chance to work at the Rabbitohs back in 1992. Then I went to the Tigers, New South Wales Institute of Sport. Went over and worked in France in rugby league and rugby union. Came back to work in New Zealand in rugby union. Then I went to the Australian Institute of Sport, nearly halfway. I left the AIS to go to the Knights, which is the team I supported as a kid, which was pretty exciting. Went back over to France, was lucky enough to work in Paris. Then back to Australia, worked briefly in Darwin, back to the New South Wales Institute of Sport, left there to go to the Melbourne Storm for a season. Kind of wanted to see a bit more of the world, and spent 5 years, or the best part of the last 5 years, overseas. So I worked in Malaysia, I worked in Samoa, I worked in China. I thought I'd do a little bit more work on my education, and went to New Zealand, and I'm currently doing a PhD through the University of Waikato. Got all my data collected pretty early, and saw the job at Mackay advertised. Always liked the Q Cup as a competition, always thought it was quite high quality. And lo and behold, turns out that Mick Crawley was the coach, and Mick and I knew each other from the AIS days actually. And decided I'd take the opportunity to come up here, finish my PhD, do something a little bit different. And it's been great. Obviously COVID was not the best. Had a great pre-season, and then the season was done in one game. But I stayed here through that whole period. We had a program that we ran once that we came out of lockdown that was really about keeping players engaged and keeping players just ticking over until the next season started. So yeah, there it is in 5 minutes, 30 years condensed down to 3 minutes.
Yeah, so definitely, obviously well travelled, seen a lot and a lot of different programs. And
Yeah.
So how have you found Mackay and the Cutters and what we're building here? So take us a bit of background behind the scenes.
Yeah, very very different situation. Obviously, going to semi-professional. I mean, the players do get paid, but they also have jobs as well. That was never an issue at an NRL club or professional rugby overseas. It's actually closer to what the AIS was like, where you'd have people preparing for the Olympics, but they also had to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. They'd work 8 to 4. It wasn't a full-time job for a lot of them being an athlete. So it's actually more like that. It's more like what the NRL was like in the 90s. We would have a percentage of players that were full-time and a percentage of players that were still working, doing fairly similar jobs. I was in Sydney, so they weren't working in the heat like it is up here. So we're very mindful of that. The other challenge with semi-professional football is just the turnover's much greater. And there's a lot of research out there and on the way turnover at players can affect the team. So if you look at successful teams, they generally are together for longer. If you look at Penrith at the moment, they're quite a young team, but a lot of those guys were in their academy program coming through. So it's very hard to compare yourself to those type situations at a place like this where there is going to be a turnover of players. You've got players that make massive commitment to come here as well. And until you move countries, you don't realise what a challenge that is. And until you travel, where to come here, you don't measure it in kilometres or hours, you measure it in days of driving. That's a really big commitment. So it's something we're trying to get all those parts together. It's always going to be a challenge at the start, and it always is going to take time, but hopefully keeping players together as much as possible. I think COVID had a pretty big impact on this club because a lot of players had that break in football and they decided that it was time to get on with the rest of their lives. A couple of them started families and moved for jobs and things like that. So hopefully we're at the beginning of something, not halfway through it or at the end of it. Yeah. And we can see that not just the positives to come out of that in 2021, but over 2022, 2023, hopefully we're putting things in place that bring players through locally, is also making it an attractive place for the Cowboys to send players, because I know they're going to get looked after, and players that want to go in the other direction, that want to get to the NRL, they feel like Mackay is a really good step to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And you spent some time with our 16s team this year as well, helping them prepare in the gym, and been watching that as well. And it's looks like it definitely helped them this season in their performances. So, what's a little bit of the differences between how the Cyril Connell under 16s team prepare in the gym compared to an older ISC team?
Yeah, at that age, you've got this thing that's happening called puberty. So you've got kids that are well on their way through it. So you've got 15-year-olds that are basically adults, physically speaking, and then you've got 15-year-olds that are basically 11. You've also got kids that look like they're through puberty because they're 6'5", but then when you actually look at their physiques, they're still growing. Their limbs have grown, their body hasn't. Very challenging period when that happens, because your coordination can often decrease in that period of time because your body's changing so quickly. It takes time for the rest of the body to catch up. The limbs will grow quick, the actual torso won't. So what we were doing, we called it our foundation program, and it was all about our foundation strength program. It was quite short. We were only in there for like 20, 25 minutes, and it was all about mastering the basic movements, having control of the body, being able to balance on one leg, being able to lunge, squat, push, pull, hold their trunk. Big group of kids, so we had to do a few things logistically to get through the program very quick. We weren't looking at throwing a weight on their back and seeing how strong they are now, because puberty is deciding that. But we wanted them to actually move their bodies well, because that's going to create a foundation for learning skills out there. It's going to create a foundation for developing strength, and their ability to run will improve when they've got more control of their body. So it was very much based around that. in the process at the moment of designing a follow-on program, so the kids that impress the coaches that they think are going to benefit will hopefully keep training with us 1 day a week. Hopefully doesn't clash with school or doesn't clash with local footy. It'll just be 1 day a week, and they'll also do some basic core skills with our ISC coaching staff. So we're still in the process of putting that together. Once the season's formally over, I think our under 16 teams are finished, but there's still one round left to go. We'll sit down with the coaches and say, which players do you reckon are worth the time? Which players do you reckon we should get coming in? And we'll continue to develop them physically as well. And that won't be just the 16s. It'll be the younger age group, under 18s players, and hopefully some of the under 19s girls, under 17s girls, first year under 19s girls as well. They'll be invited to come to those sessions as well.
Yeah, great. They all had really good seasons, just finishing up on the weekend. For them, Mace, you've been through our pathway programs as well. How was your experiences coming through the pathways here at the Cutters?
Yeah, so when I first started, it was actually still Cyril Connell. It was 16s, and then it changed, and now it's gone full circle and gone back again. But I was 15, picked in the 16s squad when I first started, and that was actually when you were still S&C here. I never ended up playing, but that was my first taste of sort of a really grueling pre-season, and it probably stands out for me really. And I remember we were just training, and that was when I first started in the gym, and I remember that was, it's stamped in my brain really. I remember that pre-season and how tough it was, and that's the first sort of fitness that you start doing and conditioning blocks and things like that. Before that, you don't really do it. And then basically I had a pretty bad run with injuries, but was still in the squad, so I was doing rehab pretty much through the whole under 18s time, and it's never fun, but that was, and we didn't have a lot of success as a team through that under 18s period. And then 2019, I was a part of the under 20s squad with Michael Comerford, and we had quite a successful year. I played I think 12 games out of the season, and we made semis and lost to Wynnum, who then went on to the grand final and lost to Falcons. But no, that was quite a successful season, and when I was a younger age of the under 20s, and then full pre-season 2020, and obviously COVID played one round. But no, I've always found it good, and just the support. Like when I was injured, there was never a doubt that I didn't have the team behind me and the full coaching staff behind me. I was always included, invited on away trips and to Townsville and Rocky and things like that. And I'm just very fortunate that they stuck by me, and now I'm signed to ISC and playing Colts for 2021.
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's good to have you on board, and I feel like we've got a good group of those academy kids that have come through and still coming through, and part of the ISC group now as well. And hopefully that continues to build. It's really good work that the club's doing. So the weekend's games, we had a tough result against PNG. They were pretty tough, as they're always going to be. And Colts had a good win. How'd you go, Mace?
Yeah, we had a good win. It was quite warm at 4:00 in the afternoon here at BB Print. But I know the Mustangs boys from Toowoomba definitely weren't used to it. They were talking to me in the scrum, asked me if it's always this humid. But we had a good win. It was good to get the monkey off the back for round one. A bit scrappy there at the start, but we come good in the end and started piling points on. So that'll give the boys a bit of confidence for round two against Capras.
Definitely big road trip to Rocky.
Yeah.
What about ISC, Tim?
Yeah, tough one. I think the Hunters are in a situation very similar to Melbourne were last year, where they're going to be in camp here because, again, COVID travel restrictions. There's been a few problems in PNG with the jump up in cases, so they're based down at Runaway Bay. And they are a very tough team. They play a very simple style. At the end of the day, they run the ball very, very hard. They tackle very, very hard. The structure around that is a little looser, but they base everything around what they're really, really good at. For us, it's definitely a work in progress. Our main focus is on making sure that we train with intent, and just trying to improve our ball security. We improved that area where we're a much better team. One of the tough things has been with so many new players coming in is just getting those structures and cohesion and understanding on the field between players. If you've never played with someone, it's often very difficult to start, and it takes a little bit of time to get that. So hopefully the club's looking at things like that long term. It's something that if you look at successful clubs, they have that and they develop that. They're always developing that at the same way. So with the emphasis on making sure that our own players are coming through the system, that makes it a lot easier to do that, and you can be a little bit more selective with the players that you bring in. Obviously, the number of players that retired as a result of COVID, or use this as a chance to actually go back to where they came from. Definitely make it a tough year, but it's tough at a lot of other clubs as well. So we just need to keep working on what we've been working on, not be reactive and change. There's a lot to show that constantly changing the team and constantly changing your style of play actually doesn't help you improve. It makes it worse. So we've just got to stay the course. Every training session we need to take it as an opportunity to get better. Every game is an opportunity to get better. One of the great things has been those players that have come through. Josh Smith, Blake Paskins, Aidan Beard, those guys that have been in the system have come through and they've played with each other, and so hopefully that feeds that cohesion and understanding on the field really well.
Yeah, definitely. With the junior grades, the 16s had a good win. They finished on top of the pool. 18s also good win against Pride. And they all travelled to Townsville. I think they finished about mid-table. And our girls went undefeated all season, so credit to them, Marco and his team. And again, hopefully our women's program's doing exactly the same thing we were talking about then, establish themselves for the future here in Mackay. I think we've got something really good going there. And the Cowboys had a win, so it's good to see some of the guys who have been playing here go up and do well
really
there.
Good.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
No, probably just with the Cutters Care program, it's something that we take a lot of pride in. We put a lot of work into, and we'd love to get out to as many schools as possible. We do a relaxation exercise at the end where we've actually managed to get some of the kids to fall asleep. They get that relaxed, so gives the teacher a couple of minutes apiece. It's interesting how ISC guys do the same thing. We do a relaxation exercise with them once a week, going into our rest day, and we've had players fall asleep on the field. It's quite entertaining to observe. So that's just one of the practical things that we do with that program. So we're very keen to get to as many schools as possible and spread a good message.
Yeah, definitely. So we value our role in the community and spreading that message of healthy lifestyles around the region. And jump on the website, go to the community page there and fill in the form, and we'll get Tim and Mason out to his school, and that's it from us. We'll sign off. It's episode 3 in the books, and thank you very much. We're looking forward to the next one.
Change the Game. Proudly brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.